All right, lucky week number 7 here on the Lineups College Football Show. Jared and Pete back with you. Pete, the first thing we mentioned before we started the show was if I was still alive, if I was still kicking. I
Thoughts
am
and
still
prayers.
here.
Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers to Penn State and any fans out there that watched the show last
Well, it's
week.
because you weren't wearing white T-shirts. You didn't have a crowd full of people wearing the same colored T-shirts. If you had that, everything would have been okay.
That's really the elixir. But actually, it's a good starting point to the show because Oregon's got a huge game this week against Indiana. And I think my first reaction, obviously the anger and sadness about Penn State losing to a really crappy UCLA team, but my first reaction is, do we downgrade Oregon because of this? Because that was a tight game in Happy Valley.
No, because it's a lot of traveling. So UCLA is going to be interesting. Let's start with this because the game they got this weekend against Michigan State. Michigan State's not very good, but look at what UCLA's had to do over the last couple weeks. I mean, if we're going at this, because we are here to make people money, which, by the way, when, Florida over Texas last week, you can't afford not to watch this show.
We wouldn't be shocked if that happened, and it happened.
You have to have these things. So, look, UCLA, they went to Northwestern, so they had to fly over to Chicago. They go back to LA and deal with the Penn State game, and that goes into, the late stages of that, all that experiences. They got to go back now on a plane for East Lansing. So that's 3 weeks of a lot of stuff. And, this is an early game time for them. So for UCLA, we'll see if they're for real or not. But, we saw what I've been screaming at everyone is that Nico Yamaleva he's Jaden Daniels light. I mean, he's that good. They just didn't have anything around him. It seemed to be as easy as that. So for Penn State, it stinks. Obviously, this is not what you wanted. But all right, if you're gonna win a national title, you're gonna have to beat Ohio State at some point. So just go do it, run the table, and go.
You got to beat them in a couple weeks in Columbus and probably in the playoff. Before you could have gotten by with 1-1 against Ohio State.
God, how'd that work? So if they actually, or you might have to play Oregon, depending on how this works.
I don't think they're going to be in the Big Ten championship game because I don't think 2 losses gets into the Big Ten championship game. I don't. I think it would be a bunch of.
You're right. So yeah, that would be. Yeah, so that would be rough. So so you're right. So 10-2 still gets you. Ohio State erases the UCLA problem. So it's not
if
like
they can beat Ohio State, which is a place that has been a horror show for them in years past.
Yeah.
Then yes, then we'll talk. But I'm not there yet. So here's what I saw when I watched Penn State on film: is the receivers were quitting on routes and the scheme was way too gimmicky. I agree with Nico that his legs really is what won him the game. They could not contain him. They could not spy him. They could not figure out a way to keep him in the pocket, which is unfortunate because from what we heard from Jerry Bruckheimer, a.k.a. Jerry Neuheisel, the interim OC, who was just hired last week, he wasn't
great hair,
calling
by
the plays half the time. He had the microphone flipped up and he was pressing the wrong button because he's never called plays before. That doesn't make this loss any more palatable, but my problem is with Jim Knowles in this $3 million scheme, why were they unable to keep Nico in the pocket and why have they become so timid with the pass rush? It's been really tough to watch, honestly, Pete.
Well, I've been preaching this all. It's my new mantra. It's my new belief. It's my new thing, and I've been preaching this all year. What's wrong with Arch? What's wrong with what's wrong with this? And I think at this point, with the $3 million coordinators and with all the specialists and with all the different things and analysts and analytics and blah, 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 sometimes it's just as easy as it's a dumb game. Go out there and play. And I think what Tim Skipper has done in the interim for UCLA is they're just like, look, we're going to lose every other game. No one's going to – this season's going nowhere. F it. Let's just go out there and just play football and have fun. And they looked lit. There was a different energy. And, that is sometimes it just happens. And you can do that in the NFL because, it's one of 17 and you're okay. College, you can't afford that type of loss. And even with everything going wrong, Penn State still almost won that game.
Yes.
So, the talent is still there. They just got to put it – I mean, they're still the most among the most talented teams in America. If they get in the tournament –
I think on paper they are, Pete, but I don't think the coaching staff is getting the most out of that talent. I am watching their receivers, who they paid a boatload of money for in the portal, just quit on routes. Just completely have no idea where they're going, what they're doing, quit on routes. it feels like the coaching and the player talent is not aligned. And when that happens, you're not maximizing that talent. So while on paper they're talented, they're not playing to that talent.
It's something to be said for the portal era as well. Sure. Where look at your last few national champions.
It's like chemistry. It's like dating. If you're not, you can coach all you want. If the players don't receive the coaching, then they're not going to reach that potential.
It's my Colorado argument, the all frosting no cake thing. Where
it's a great way. Froth. It's very frothy. The talent is very frothy. Denai Dennis Sutton should be a top 15 pick, but he's not getting good looks in the pass rush because Jim Knowles isn't scheming it properly, or maybe the coaching isn't there. When you watch Denai Dennis Sutton play, he is an absolute freak. He blocked the punt on Saturday. Yeah. But why isn't he getting significantly more pass rush production? I cannot answer that question.
Yeah, it's a problem because who were the last few national champions? Like Ohio State, they got everyone back. They were heartbroken and mad, and we lost to Michigan the year before, and we have to figure this whole thing out. And that they had all their defensive linemen come back, and that was kind of the glue to get it all together. Michigan, the heartbreak of gacking against TCU and coming so close. You need that sort of tight knit thing, and that was kind of the thought with Penn State, where they had the experience and they added to it, and it's just not quite blending. But with that said, again, you look at this schedule, they're going to beat Northwestern without a problem. They're going to beat Iowa. They are. Then you get 2 weeks off. Then it's Ohio State because they're going to Indiana at home. They'll find a way to get by that.
Matter, Pete. I'm telling you
at
right
Michigan
now. You
State
heard it here first. They're getting blasted at Ohio State. They're going to come up lame. Ohio State's defense is legit. It is absolutely legit. I don't want to make this a Penn State show though because I think they are not part of the national conversation anymore. At least they shouldn't be unless they go to Penn State or Ohio State and win, and we can get to that game in a couple of weeks. But let's get to that Indiana-Oregon game because, again, my first instinct was to downgrade Oregon. The market reacted that way. We saw this number come down. Now it's 7.5, right? You hate the key numbers. But over a touchdown, if Indiana can figure out a way to block this Oregon D-line, which I think is the strength of the team, I think Indiana's going to compete in this game. What do you think?
Yeah, it'll be competitive. But this is kind of built into the system. Where you look at the Indiana schedule. I mean, Indiana is just as well coached as anybody.
Yeah.
And, the crazy part about this Ohio State defense, I mean, the Ohio State defensive stats at this point are unbelievable. Like you have to go back to 1978, I think it is, for the last time they went 5 games in a row without allowing 10 points. And you have to, if they do it again this week, that'll be 6 for the first time since like the Woody Hayes 1974, teams. So this defense is at another level. Here's my fun, crazy stat on Indiana. Ohio State's defense is ridiculous in the red zone. It's allowing teams to score just 28% of the time. No one else is under 50%, and only one other team is under 60%. Indiana in 5 games has only allowed 3 drives to get inside the 20-yard line. They're not even letting teams in the red zone, and look, they haven't played. I mean, Illinois is legit, obviously, but that was a buzzsaw game. Iowa, okay, but Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State, whatever. They're gonna lose to Oregon, but that's factored in along with the loss at Penn State. They're 10-2, and they're gonna beat everyone else. But they'll lose respectably. Everything's gonna go towards plan against Oregon. Oregon's gonna win. They're gonna have to fight for it. It'll be a good win. Move on. And Indiana's going to lose respectably enough that everyone's going to be like, okay, yeah, fine, you're good.
Yeah, I think Indiana does have some explosive tendencies, both on offense and defense. And what I mean by that is they're prone to giving up explosives on defense. That's actually something that they don't grade out in well, but everything else, they're fantastic. They're green across the board, success rate, finishing drives, havoc, third downs. They do commit a lot of penalties, and maybe that's going to be something to keep an eye on the road in a hostile environment. I trust the market movement here. Again, this thing was 10 over the weekend, and now it's 7.5. I think Indiana keeps it close. I think they keep it close. I think maybe because I would take the point.
Or they do its back door because they owe the world for that safety against Iowa. So it might be, but if it is, it's not. Look, it's a false equivalency is to say, oh no, Oregon might not be that good because they took it because Penn State played great. Once Penn State woke up, they could not be stopped.
They were down 2 scores until they woke up.
Yeah, but they sleptwalk. I mean, weird things happen in LA. They had problems last year against USC. That's the problem with making that trip is your body clock's off.
Oregon didn't
everything's
have a
off.
problem with it, but I guess the game was at night.
Exactly. So it's I mean, blah blah blah. They should have beaten UCLA, but I mean, everyone made the same mistake. Oh no, Alabama's not good. Look what happened against Florida State, and then Alabama just rips through everyone else. Penn State's still really awesome, but they might not have a chance to show it now. And Oregon's still awesome. Oregon's fine.
Yeah, no, Oregon's a really good team. I think it's a little bit more of us not fully knowing how good Indiana is. And I think the market responded to two things early in the week. I think it responded to maybe Indiana's a little bit better than we think in the Big Ten. Maybe they're actually the second or third best team in the Big Ten behind Ohio.
Oh yeah, they're the third best team in the Big Ten. They're right there.
Maybe they're tighter with Oregon than we expect. And then I think there was a downgrade of Oregon because of the Penn State loss. It's just the natural, trickle down effect of how these markets work with how the spreads are made. When you decrease Penn State's power rating significantly, and they're one of the biggest droppers now. They go from top 5 to unranked in 2 weeks. It's going to naturally decrease. So you could make the argument that there's value on Oregon here. If we think that Oregon's still legit, and that game at Happy Valley was tough, but the market is going to downgrade Oregon naturally after Penn State loses, then maybe betting Oregon at 7, if it gets to that point, and I saw it hit 7 a couple times this week, maybe Oregon -7 is kind of the nuts here.
Yeah, look, Oregon's still going to win. I mean, Indiana's still good there, but Oregon, I think, is a machine right now, and they're at home. And to your point, if you're doing this absolutely right, if you're going blind here, I don't know anything about any team, I don't know anything about college football, I'm just going to look at the straight A, B, C, D. Right now, technically, if you're going to do this in respect to the results, Penn State's ranked like 100th. You have to rank them behind Akron. It's like the weirdest way of doing this because their only wins are Nevada, FIU, and Villanova. So you can't say, and as you say, you can't say they're better than these teams. Like FIU beat Nevada. It's a whole screwy way of doing this. But again, you have to rank them behind Central Michigan and Tulsa and right now until they get a big win. So they haven't had really one yet. But don't downgrade Oregon too much. But you're right. Or Indiana can come in and win this, and it wouldn't be really that shocking because they're just that airtight. They're just that well coached. But I'm not there yet. I really think it's more of a case of Oregon beat Penn State twice here.
That's fair. I think if I had to pick this game, I think I look for an Oregon -7 because I do think the biggest mismatch from what I can watch, from what I can glean on film, is Oregon's pass rush, especially their interior, which played great against Penn State, against the Indiana offensive line, especially the right side, is a liability. Right tackle, right guard, problem.
I mean,
problem.
This Oregon
against that Oregon pass rush. Uiagalelei, the DJ's brother, is their best pass rusher.
These Oregon lines are legit, and it's
their
just
D-line's really good, I think.
And you get to Mendoza, and then all of a sudden that all kind of changes.
Mendoza,
really fast.
He might have played here. I don't know if we can check the Cal schedule. Mendoza might have played a game at Oregon in his career. That might help, actually. It might help a little bit. I'm going to look at that right now.
Oh, well, yes.
I don't know if Cal played at Oregon last year. I've got it pulled up here.
I've got it right here.
They did not. They did not. So this will be his first time there.
He played at. Oh, yes, he went. He didn't play at. Yeah, he did. He played his freshman year with Cal. He went 18 of 34.
In 2023. Good call.
And they lost 63 to 19. They lost by a gajillion.
Yeah, they lost 63 to 19. I'm guessing that Cal team sucked. considerably, and they probably weren't. Actually, what's his name?
They were all right. They went to a bowl game.
Yeah, who's the Cal coach? His name's eluding me. He's really good.
Oh yeah, Justin Wilcox, who has somehow lasted for forever right now. He's always gets about to lose his job, and then he gets to a bowl game, and everything sort of changes. Speaking of which, in a professional sort of way. You hear this stuff now. What do you do with North Carolina? Because now Belichick's talking about his $1 million buyout.
He's out. Listen. I did a show about this earlier in the week. The morning after. Follow me, please. I'm revamping my old show that I used to host back in the day. Yeah. North Carolina has a Bill Belichick problem. And here was the last straw for me that confirmed it. That he gives two craps about this program. He wouldn't even promote Drake May's great performance against the Bills. That if you are running a college program. And your quarterback of like 2 or 3 years ago, recent quarterback, goes on the road and beats Josh Allen in the MVP, You are screaming that from the rooftops to every donor, every player, every recruit, everyone. Look how great this quarterback is that played for our program.
What's the other layer there about? Is that an he hates the Patriots though? Is that because May was never part of Belichick?
What my point is, his anger and pettiness is clouding his judgment on how to run a college program, which is absurd. It's all about Bill. It's not about the kids. I think it's ridiculous. He needs to go. He is unfit to be coaching college sports. Unfit.
It's the problem with it, and this is my issue as an ageist here is if you're Bill Belichick's age, you don't have 5 years to build. You got to win now. So that's where again we talked before about the transfers. What's the problem? Well, it's all about the recruiting. It's all about putting it together.
And everyone hates him. You're hearing these anonymous sources. He's running the program like it's the Gestapo. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and
it's like the opposite of Mac Brown, who was like lovey-dovey, meet my family, all this stuff. That's what a college program should be. It should be about the program, the kids, the recruits. It's all about Bill. That's the issue.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty much all about the you meet any good college football coach, and there is an authoritarian regime happening inside his head.
Yeah,
so
but it's still about the kids, though.
I get it. They say that, but
a family. It's college. It's still amateur sports. I know they're getting paid a lot of money, and it's definitely changed. But at college football's core, it should be about the families and the recruits and getting people to come to your program because you can't just buy them. I guess now you kind of can. But at these lower levels of the Power Four, there still has to be some kind of familial vibe, or else they're going to go anywhere.
That's the thing. I kind of take on a very more cynical note here where, yes, you're part of the family if you're 6'4", 260 and run a 4.5.
Everyone's 6'4", 260 now, though. But why should if you're 6'4", 260, number one high school recruit in the state of North Carolina, if UNC and Duke is offering them the same amount of money, why would you choose to go to UNC over Duke? Because you like the vibe of the program, you like the coaching staff, you like how it feels.
Or you can get to the NFL. That's the thought process by why you would want to go play for Bill Belichick no matter
the big
what.
Selling point.
And this point,
he won't even promote his NFL, not the Patriots though. You could go to the NFL, but not the Patriots.
18-year-old kids don't know. 18-year-old kids don't know who Tom Brady is. So they care about, hey, where can I go to get the most NIL money?
Long story short, North Carolina's got a big problem on their hands, and my guess is
get another coach, it'll be fine.
October 8th. You heard it here first. Bill Belichick will not make it to Thanksgiving as the head coach of the North Carolina.
I love them coming into the season because their schedule is pretty easy, but there's just not. It's not there. He's just, and this happens too. Bill Walsh also had that where he came back later in his career. I think he was way younger than Belichick is now, and his second stint at Stanford didn't work, and you just can't. Sometimes you can control everything, but you can't control 18 to 22-year-old kids sometimes. But you have to have it's a different skill set. And so I will throw this your way as a sports talk host as we get away from the actual betting. We'll get back on the track here in a little bit. Colin Cowherd got ripped a few weeks ago for suggesting that Jim Harbaugh is the best coach in football. He's not. If you think of college and pro ranks about success, Harbaugh's the one guy, and Pete Carroll too, are the only guys who have that skill set because it's hard. When you're in a college football mode, you're recruiting. When every single waking moment, you're recruiting. You just won the national championship. You're on the phone for the next half an hour. You're not celebrating. You're calling recruits. You're always moving. And it's a hard skill set that if you're not used to doing that, like a Charlie Weiss had this problem, the pro guys have the problem when they go to college, and sometimes the college guys have the problem going the other way.
Yeah, he has no passion for the sport. He just cares about Bill. That's it. It's too sterile. You need to have some culture, some lifeblood in your program, or else the players will not play for you. There is still an element of you're not getting a game check. You still have to play for something. And it's just, why is his girlfriend on the sidelines? Why is it all about the PR? It feels like this is a giant PR psyop to continue to push Bill's career forward.
Well, now with that said,
he has to rely on actual coaching ability.
There's nothing more PR psyop ever than Coach Prime at Colorado. That was all about Prime.
Agree.
That was all about his kids, and he won.
But he also
had
had
some
a
success.
really strong career at Jackson State before that happened, though, Pete. Bill Belichick was on the couch writing books, and then he's like, I want to get back into coaching. and then he's at
No,
UNC a few months later.
I'm with you. I guess what I'm
situation.
saying is you can do all that. You can have your girlfriend on the side. You can have all the former Hall of Famers on the sidelines like Prime has.
Prime doesn't have I've never seen Prime's girlfriend or his wife on the side. I've seen the Depends thing on the sideline.
Yeah, but he's also got every rapper on the sidelines. He's got all these celebrities on the sidelines. He's got all these Hall of Famers. He is a sideshow, but that's fine if you win. So like the promotion side of things is all great, and I'm not dogging Prime in this. I'm saying great. It made Colorado a thing.
That's the thing. They're not winning because he's lost his touch as an evaluator and a coach. That's why they're not winning. Now, because they're not winning, all of this becomes magnified, and that's why it's a problem for UNC. If they were winning, I agree, it wouldn't be a problem.
Or you're
they're
5
not
games
going to win because their team and his coaching ability has lost a step.
Unless you say, "Hey, look, I'm here for a reason because we need to win, and this is a rebuilding job."
They're going to go 2-10 this year,
and that's what's not happening. If you got to frame it right that you're not going to win right away. You're gonna need because every program
that's how it'll
be
spun. It'll be spun as this is not going to work out.
It needs 2 or 3 years to come because remember, for all the fun and games of Coach Prime's first year. They stunk. They had the kind of miraculous wins earlier, and then
Listen, I think there's a big difference between Deion Sanders, who's just starting his coaching career, and Belichick, who's at the end of a long coaching career that was very successful, and now he's trying to renovate it in a completely different format. Prime coached how many years did he coach at Jackson State?
Only 2.
Until he took all of those players with him that he had a lot of success with to Colorado. I don't think there's, frankly, any comparison between Prime and Belichick. I think they are two completely different subsets of this like famous coach because Belichick has never coached in college, not recently, and he's renovating an old career where he had success in the NFL where Prime is on the come up as a coach trying to build his name in coaching. I think they're two very different situations.
Deion Sanders is like my favorite college.
And I think he's actually going to be a good head coach. I honestly do, but he needs time to do it. He's only done it for a few years.
I'm absolutely not ripping on him in this way because again, I've got the closet full of old Prime memorabilia to prove it here. So between his health issues and his age,
how old is he?
They're not winning.
He's not that old. He's not that old. He's only like he's in his like 50s.
Yeah,
maybe the health
58?
Issues are. He's 58
health
years
issues.
old. He's 58 years old. He has another decade of this minimum. Belichick is in his early 70s.
Well, all right, let's pivot though to Colorado because what's coming up. Yeah, but they're not going to win. They might not win another game.
I don't think Prime's going anywhere. I think the biggest issue that Colorado has right now, and by the way, that's a big game. Iowa State on the road this week in Boulder. They're a 2.5-point favorite. I think the biggest issue that Colorado has right now is they can't figure out who their starting quarterback is. Now, maybe that is a coaching thing, but they brought in the kid, the 5-star kid, the recruit, and the Slovis transfer from Liberty, but they seem to not know which one's going to play, if either. They go on the other guy, too.
And that's the coaching part of the – well, you want to talk about parallels – was it Brady or Belichick? I think it was Shador. I mean, I know it's not working.
Or it was Travis Hunter.
Shador
he's a good player.
It's historically great in terms of just his completion percentage. He was the offense, and I don't want to say he carried them, but those were Colorado was Prime took over a miserable program, and they got relevant. They went from nothing to a thing, and they started to get good late last year, and they got walloped in the bowl game, and now they're probably going to go 3-9 this year. So, it's the sustainability of this. So part of it is you got to have the players, and you've got to build from within. So, we're going big on Colorado here and all this stuff, but I do think, with that said, I think Iowa State bounces back, and I think and this is going to be the fun of this is the craziest of the Big 12 this year is where you have Iowa State losing to Cincinnati like this. They go to Colorado and then BYU, Arizona at TCU. So they went from being I could see them being in the college football playoff to, they're out. And same with just about everyone else in the Big 12. This is going to be a one-bid conference
100%.
For the college football playoff because Arizona State's going to be right there. TCU is going to be in. And then who's getting by Texas Tech? I mean, that's the game.
Texas Tech plays BYU at home in 4 weeks. I think that's the game. That'll kind of
Arizona State. They go next week Texas Tech at
I think
Arizona
Texas
State.
Tech's better than Arizona State. I'm a little down on Arizona State. I know you've been higher on them. Arizona State's got a tough game at Utah this week, by the way.
I know that's a rough one, but they sort of find ways to keep winning. Their only loss was on that last second play against Mississippi State on the road, which we correctly called on this show, by the way, because you can afford not to listen to this thing. But yeah, that's a team that's pretty nasty too. So all across the board, I mean, the Big 12 each and every week. That's more NFL-like, where any given Saturday, you could say, like you said, could they lose to Utah this week and then beat Texas Tech? Yeah, okay, absolutely. So that's the Big 12 every week is going to be wild.
Completely wide open conference. Honestly, it's a conference that I don't bet much because I just don't. I usually am SEC, Big 12, or Big 10. Those are most of my bets, and I bet a lot of the mid-majors because I get some good information about where lines are going to move, and I don't watch the mid-majors, but I watch the SEC. And the
Money's just as good on Akron as Alabama.
It is, but I rely on other people that have significantly more knowledge about those teams. I mean, we don't really talk about those teams on the show. Maybe we will when we get to the playoff, whichever team figures out a way to stumble their way into it.
It's the American Athletic Conference. That's going to be the one.
Memphis probably. I mean, listen, UNLV keeps winning games, but I think at some point they're going to run it. I mean, they've been winning games very fortunately, and I don't think their record, strength of schedule-wise, has been that good. But yeah, Memphis, the American Navy, maybe even has a chance to sneak in. We'll see.
South Florida's probably the one. South Florida's got the cred from beating Florida, so that's probably it from there.
I don't know. All right. They're South Florida. They got a big game this week at North Texas. That's another team that might have a chance to sneak in.
That's a fun team, and that's the opposite.
Texas is the favorite in that game.
Not to go back in the Belichick world, but speaking as an old guy, sometimes you just need that young energy. And that's where guys like Eric Morris, the head coach of North Texas, and so G.J. Kinney of Texas State, and we've seen it right now with Arizona State. Kenny Dillingham's 15 years old? I don't think he has his license yet, actually. So these guys are so young that they just have this different energy, a different mind, and that's really all you need is just, like you said, you're around for all the, you talk family, culture. Sometimes it's just you're in college. These guys don't. It's not really that hard. Just college kids just think about the now. They just want to have fun. They just want to go play. And you just got to have the guys who can, match that sort of energy. And unless, the name Bill Belichick means something, because, you see it, it's hard for pro coaches to come back. Sometimes it works, when
gotta
Steve
have
Spurrier,
energy. I like North Texas in this game. I do. I think North Texas wins this game at home. I think they're legit this year. I bet they're over 6.5 wins. That's going to cash easily.
I'm not quite as sold. They're very good. This USF team is a little more sound. They've got the talent. North Texas, they blew out Washington State, which is actually a better win than it seems. But really, we're loving them because of Lamar, Western Michigan, Washington State, Army, and South Alabama. I mean, it's a little thin. And
I think the issue that I see with USF is just Byron Brown. They've asked him to do a lot with his legs the first month plus, and it's just he's not a massive guy. Actually, he's pretty big.
He is a pretty big dude. He's
maybe
all right.
He can handle it. But he's had, for example, they've asked him to run the ball 64 times already in the first 6 games. For the first 5
that's college
games.
football. That's how it works.
It's a lot, but it's still a lot for a starting quarterback who also is relied upon a lot in the passing game.
It's not.
Maybe it's not this game, but I do think eventually the Byron Brown. That's why I'm not high on South Florida making the playoff.
That's more of that's an NFL thing. That's an NFL thing more than a college thing. The NFL thing is eventually Lamar Jackson gets hurt, or eventually Jalen Hurts.
That's what I'm saying. I think he might get hurt. Wasn't he banged up a couple weeks ago?
Byron Brown.
I thought he was just a little.
Oh, Brown was out last year. Brown got hurt last year and missed half the season. But here, 66.5 for a point total is usually one I would scream, don't mess with it. This might be 65-62. I mean, these two teams North Texas does not have a defense. Yeah. These two teams are going to hit haymakers on each other all game long.
This is a fun game. Normally I'm excited. It's a Friday night standalone game too. I'm excited to watch.
All right, so. All right, so take this. I am the all-time worst picker of games on Friday night.
So that's good. That means I'm glad we're on opposite sides.
Exactly. So run away. So
I like North Texas. I think North Texas.
Last week, my number one pick of last week was the San Diego State Colorado State under. I went to the game and San Diego State scored 48 points on the first drive. It was over right out of the gate. Friday night games throw everybody out of whack. So I am hard in on USF, which means go heavy on your mean green.
Love it. All right. Ohio State travels to Champaign this week. I think, in my opinion, this is hammer to nail. I've been down on Illinois all year. They had a nice win against USC. I thought they kind of righted the ship enough, even though that game was super wacky and could have went either way. But I think Ohio State, we're not talking about them much, but if they go into Champaign and drop, just like Indiana did, and drop a big number on this Illinois team, I think they will. And I think I have Ohio State as my number one team right now in my ratings.
Sure.
I think I would not bet Illinois in this spot. It's either Ohio State or pass.
I'm going Ohio State, but they're going to have to work to get it. Like, I remember Illinois is a funky program. And this, I know what happened 10, 15 years ago doesn't matter to now. But there are instances with Illinois is just kind of one of those programs where out of the blue, something happens in Champaign. Weird things happen in Champaign. Brett Bielema sometimes gets his guys to another level. The Indiana game was just, they had the wrong game plan. They for whatever reason, whatever they coached up that team to do for Indiana was the complete wrong way to analyze it, and they never got it. And they were missing all their defensive backs in that game. Everyone was hurt, and Mendoza just picked them apart. I don't think Illinois wins, but I think you are really, really concerned until late. I think Ohio State, because remember, Ohio State only has the one road game this year. It was 13-6. Ohio State-Washington until like 11 minutes to go in the game.
And then their defense just slammed the door. I agree. That's how the game
That's what I think is going to happen.
It feels like it's a nip-and-tuck game, and then Illinois eventually has to open things up to chase it because they're down like 7 to 10 points in the fourth quarter, and that's when Ohio State just nails it home.
Luke Altman.
I think they win by more than 2 touchdowns, though. I think they win by 17 to 21 points. I think it's like 31-10, something like that. 31.
Without looking, as I'll quiz you on this. Give me Luke Altmaier completion percentage, touchdowns, and interceptions through 6 games this year.
It's probably pretty good because they run a super check with me RPO offense. So it's probably a high completion rate with a lot of touchdowns and not a lot of picks. That's what I would guess.
Yeah, he actually doesn't run that much. He actually is negative yards on the year.
Well, that's because of the sacks. That's because of the sacks.
He's hitting 74% of his
runs are.
And that's the problem. They're not going to be able to hold up against the line.
Sacks. I mean, he's got a lot of design runs this year. He's a run. That is an RPO offense. I've watched a couple of them. I've watched a couple of their games this year.
He runs a little bit, but 74%, 12 touchdowns, no picks. He's hitting 10 over close to 11 yards per pass.
Yeah, he's been really
This
good.
is a bomb. This is the one cautionary thing, and again, I'm picking Ohio State with the cover too.
I thought Washington was really good too with Coleman and Damon Williams, and they couldn't do a damn thing against us at home. They couldn't do a damn thing against us Ohio State with Ohio State traveling across the country.
That passing game is not the same. Ohio State has not been stress tested yet, and that includes Texas when it comes to the passing games. This is the best passing game it's played so far. So again, if you're one of those in-game players, I could see all of a sudden social media erupting that it's Illinois 10-0 after the first quarter.
I would bet Ohio State immediately.
And then just hang with it, and then eventually, dear Lord, Ohio State
Illinois wants to drag you down into the muck and drown you, right? They're 123rd in tempo. They don't throw it a ton, but they're effective when they do. They want to slow this game down to a grinding, bloody halt. So that's probably how the first half will go. And then Ohio State will go into the locker room. They'll make their adjustments. They'll be up like 17-10 at the half or like 13-10 at the half or something like that.
We lose you there?
And then all of a sudden in the second half, I think that's when the hammer comes down.
I don't know if your thing just froze there for the last 13 seconds. I don't know if that was my end.
I think I'm okay. It did froze up for a minute, but I'm good right now. At least
Illinois is pretty good on the time possession battle, and they do chuck it a lot. But again, they're gonna test this secondary for that. We're gonna learn a little something about this Ohio State defense. But again, over the course of the game, the lines are just gonna come through for the Buckeyes.
I think Ohio State wins. I think they cover. Maybe Illinois covers the first half, but I think in the second half, Ohio State will.
All right, let me throw another funky one at you. USC, Michigan. This is the winner of this is deep in the mix for 10-2 and a possible college playoff hit. The loser's out because there's too much traffic left to happen. Can Michigan get there and hang. This is one of those moments where the Lincoln Riley era, if this is really happening, they're really okay. You come up with a win. You come up with a win over a good Michigan team, but a somewhat flawed team in a lot of ways. They haven't. Can Bryce Underwood handle the pressure? No one's getting to the quarterback like USC is this year. Underwood's going to be under the most pressure he's been in yet so far, except the Oklahoma game, who's also killing it when it comes to sacks and big plays. And they lost that game, obviously. This is one of those games that's really going to be it's going to even fly under the radar compared to others. But I think afterwards we're going to be like, okay, this team is right in the mix for stuff.
I liked USC before the season started. I did. I bet they're over on their win total. I think Maava's a good quarterback. I think Michigan's a very different team on the road with a freshman quarterback. Even though they went on the road and won in Lincoln, I'll be honest, that wasn't like an overly impressive win. I think Nebraska lost that game as much as Michigan won it. I didn't love what I saw against Wisconsin. I thought they played really soft in that game. They didn't really put the pedal down. And Wisconsin is a very one-dimensional team, and USC isn't. So I think this is I think under a field goal, you bet USC.
I'm with you on this. My take on the Wisconsin game was Wisconsin can't do anything. Michigan got up, and they're like, we're just not going to screw up. Like, Wisconsin can't beat us. As long as we don't make any mistakes, they went ultra conservative, and they just sort of like, look, Wisconsin's not going to get more than 14 points on us at all. So we're up. We got this. Let's just pack it in and not screw it up. They're going to have to break out of their shell a little bit here. They're going to have to make some big things happen down the field. I do think it's going to be close. I don't like the over on this. I kind of like the under, just barely, and I do like USC with a field goal on this.
I would agree. All right, the other big game taking place, at least it was a big game. Actually, there's a couple of big games we'll get to. But the real big game that usually is a much more, highly regarded game in terms of the rankings, Oklahoma, Texas, it's Red River. Texas obviously off the loss to Florida. Oklahoma dealing with the Mateer injury. I'm hearing Oklahoma -1.5 if Mateer plays. If Mateer doesn't play, it'll be Texas. Hold on, let me check that again. Texas -1.5 if Mateer plays. If Mateer doesn't play, the Texas line will jump to 5.5.
So the line means nothing, basically. It basically means who do you think is going to win. So it's not going to – no one's going to win 27-26 here. All off season, I said this is where I picked. All off season, I said Texas was going to lose at Florida. That just seemed like one of those games, and they were going to drop this game to Oklahoma and then come back roaring and win everything else. I'm kind of flipping now. I kind of think that Texas is going to – Oklahoma with or without Mateer, because the whole Mateer thing feels like, well, we're going to gamesmanship up. We're going to tell you while we go.
Yeah, Venables has been like Maverick. You ever see that movie Maverick? You don't know what he's holding. You don't know what he's holding this week. I watched the pressers. You have no idea what he's holding. He's giving you the grin. He's like, yeah, he's here. He's there.
It's a little game. It's Red River gamesmanship.
Yeah, it's gamesmanship. I would do it too if I was the head coach. I wouldn't give the media a damn thing.
And this is one of those games too that throw out the record books. That kind of traditionally has been the case.
Yeah.
Where you've had some bad Texas teams come up and shock and be great. And last year they got thunder dunked on by the Longhorns. Came up and just crushed. And the two years before was one of the best games of the season. I am not totally sold on Oklahoma with or without Mateer. It's been nice, it's been fun, but this is the beginning of the end for the Sooner team with what they've got coming next. And I do think kind of like Texas and Penn State are in parallel tracks, where you've got two teams that are as talented as anybody in the country, and neither one of them are going to look like they're going to go to the college football playoff because they have 9-3 all over them. But I think this is one of those moments where, you know what, Texas is just like, enough of this. They're going to play it up right. But no one's rushing the passer like USC and Oklahoma. And Arch Manning under pressure. Ugh.
Yeah, that's what when I've watched Texas this year. Again, 4 teams in the state of Texas, top 50 in rushing yards, Texas not being one of them. That's just wild to me. Their running backs against Florida had 9 carries for 11 yards in 2 games against Texas and Florida. In 2 games against who was the other game against Texas that they struggled in? What was their other loss that they struggled in? Against Ohio State, in the Ohio State game. Ohio State and Florida. So 2 games against legit teams, Ohio State and Florida. Arch, 35 pressures and 78 dropbacks. So just
something's missing.
He's under pressure. And people want to blame Arch, right? But I think you have to give credit where credit's due, or blame where blame is due to the rest of the offense and Sark.
Oh, you blame the adults. In this case, forget the money he's making, forgetting the fact he's Arch Manning. If you've got a guy, these people aren't dumb. Like everybody around the Texas program was like, look, they were legitimately gonna not play Quinn Ewers last year, like because of Arch was that that good. He's been that good in practice. He's been that good all the way around. He's obviously been well tutored, well coached, as well as anybody ever in the Manning family. Sark's obviously a phenomenal offensive coach, but something's just not clicking yet. And maybe it's just at bats. We forget that he's only played a few games. He's still only really 5 games into his career, really. And so sometimes it just doesn't happen right away from these guys like it does for others. The talent's still undeniable. I'm still going to go with my he's overcoached thing. And if they just let him go out there and let it rip,
all these
and
guys
say, hey,
are overcoached, I think.
Yeah, just say, look, you throw an interception.
I think there's a lot of issues around him, too, honestly. I think their offensive line has some problems. I think Venables is watching the tape this week, licking his chops, is what I think.
Yeah, because that pass rush is great. I just don't buy into the idea that Oklahoma is going to have enough of an offense.
Texas needs this game more, period, end of story. They've got 2 losses. They need this game like blood. Oklahoma can lose this game and still make the playoff. That's the way I see it.
Could, but won't. I mean, you want to talk about needing a game. I mean, I'm kind of with you, but after this game, at South Carolina, Ole Miss, at Tennessee, at Alabama, 4 of their next 5 games are away from home, and then they close with they close with at South Carolina, Ole Miss, at Tennessee, at Alabama, Missouri, LSU. Thanks for playing, Oklahoma. It's been real. Yay, we'll talk to you next year.
But Texas, if they lose this game, it's really over.
Because then they're
really over. Whereas
with 3
Oklahoma
losses
could still get by and lose 2 out of those next 5 or 6 games, and go 9-3 and make the playoff. If Texas is 3-3, forget it. It's done. It's over.
How about this? The University of Texas, the biggest athletic department in all of sports, they're going to go 6 weeks without a home game because they played at Florida. They get the Red River in Dallas, at Kentucky, at Mississippi State, and then they get Vanderbilt in November.
They'll make plenty of gate in this game in Dallas. Don't worry.
They'll be just fine money-wise. But
They'll
how do you
fine. I'm not. Just like we don't cry for the bookmakers when they have a bad day against the public.
I still think that Strange thing is fine. Don't pay him off that thing. But don't hold a bake sale for the University of Texas. But
no,
but not to have a home. You have 1 home game until Thanksgiving. That's crazy to me. But Texas, you're right, is out. So they've got to win this game. But Oklahoma, if they don't win this game, we're sitting here talking, and this is crazy time talk. They're 5-0 right now. They could lose their last 7 games and not make a bowl.
Yeah. Texas plays Vandy at home on November 1st, so that'll be their next home game. They haven't had a home game since. So they went from September 20th to November 1st, 6 weeks without a home game. They had 3 road games, a bye week, 2 bye weeks. 1 bye week. 3 road games.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's like, thanks for coming to the SEC, and because of it, we're going to give you a break to start.
They had those 2 home games down the stretch against Arkansas and A&M. Again, they'll have plenty of, and they'll probably get a home game in the playoff too.
But neither one of these teams is making the playoff. So, because
I don't know. I'll be honest. I think Texas. I think if Texas wins this game, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Vandy, then they go to Georgia, Arkansas, A&M at home. I honestly think they can go 9-3 and make the playoff. I do.
No, you're not. You can't make the playoff with. You got to win 10 games. Because there's too much traffic.
Alabama almost made it with 9 last year. I think they'll be in.
But that's the thing.
9-3, and they get almost down the stretch.
Almost doesn't do it though, and that's what happens. Since the beginning of the college football playoff era, no power conference team that has won 10 games would not have made a 12-team playoff since 2014. And there's just too many of them because Notre Dame's going 10-2. You got to give the. They're not. Notre Dame's going to beat everyone the rest of the way by double digits. No one's touching this Notre Dame team.
What about USC?
Nah, they're not losing to USC.
Okay, we'll see.
Notre Dame's
I'm going to hold you to that. He said it on October 8th. Notre Dame's going 10-2.
Oh, I said it after they were 0-2. I said that they said they're in. The 2 out losses were close. They were acceptable.
All right, I'm writing it down in the notebook right now, Pete.
That offense has been fantastic. Not only that, I'm picking Notre Dame to get to the college football playoff national championship.
Yeah, we'll have more playoff. It's too jumbled right now. But I do think at 9-3 with Arch, Texas will be in the conversation because I just don't know how last year the dynamics were weird. Last year, the Big Ten got 4 at-large teams last year. The SEC got 2. That's not happening this year. That's flipping.
Right. You're right, but here's the problem with what you're talking about here. Tennessee's probably going to go 10-2.
Maybe.
Ole Miss might go 10-2.
We're projecting. I think we'll drive ourselves crazy projecting who might.
No, I'm just. What I'm saying. The point of this thing is.
I think 9-3 Texas will be in consideration if they can. I have no idea if they could get to 9-3, but if they can, they will be in consideration.
I'm saying not a chance because Alabama, Tennessee, Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss. 5 teams out of those 5
are going to have 10 wins. I don't.
No, but 3 might, and you're going to have at least 3, maybe 4 from the Big Ten and Texas.
No, I don't think you're going to. I think the Big Ten's not getting 4 this year. No freaking chance. There's
Ohio State.
The Big Ten's getting
Ohio
4
State
and Oregon.
And Oregon are in.
What if Penn State beats Indiana? Indiana gets trashed by Oregon. What if Oregon's at 10-2 with no ranked wins? Going up against the 9-3 Texas team, I think Texas.
Oregon 10-2. It's not even a debate. 10-2 Oregon is absolutely in over.
Not Oregon.
Texas.
No, 10-2 Indiana with
10-2
0 ranked wins against
Illinois.
9-3 Texas.
They destroyed Illinois. So a 10-2 Indiana is in over 9-3 Texas.
Unranked.
What?
Illinois might. There's no guarantee Illinois finishes ranked.
Illinois will be absolutely. And I'll even throw this to you.
I don't care about what their ranking was when they played early in the season. I care about what their ranking is when the playoff comes.
All I'm saying is, if you don't have 10 wins, don't even show up to the bouncer's not. Don't even go up to the bouncer.
I'll make a bet with you that a 9-win team in a power conference gets into the playoff this year.
Only if it wins the power conference championship.
I'll make a bet that a 9-win at large gets in this year. We almost had Bama last year. It was close. I think it's
but that was the thing. They didn't because they just
because
put
there was 4 Big Ten teams and there's not going to be this year.
No, because it was SMU. SMU screwed it up.
There's still going to be 2 ACCs. I think it's going to be the winner, Miami and Georgia Tech. I think the ACC is going to get their 2. The Big 12 will get their 1. I think the difference, the power shift, we talk about this on election night, right? The balance of power. Last year, the Big 10 got 4. The SEC got 2. I think it's flipping this year. I think the Big 10's going to get 2 at-large teams.
The SEC. What you're missing though is the schedules. The SEC is going to get 4. But Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Missouri, by the way, which we're going to talk about next.
Get smacked this week, and I think they're going to finish with 9. I think they're going to finish 9-3. I think they're going to have a lot of teams that are 10-2 and 9-3, probably more 9-3 than 10-2. And I think there's going to be a decision in the room whether or not we take a 9-3 SEC team over maybe a 10-2 Indiana that doesn't have a ranked win once the rankings are revealed the last week.
You're kind of assuming a lot with Illinois here.
I think Illinois is bad. I think Illinois is bad. I think they're going to get spanked this week. That's going to be their second loss, and then they've got to go to Washington still. And I think they're probably going to
but then what? They're gonna close with Rutgers, Maryland, at Wisconsin, Northwestern. At worst,
with
what?
No, I think a 10-2 Illinois doesn't
beat
get
USC
over 9-3 Texas with multiple ranked wins. I don't.
By the way, you're big picture. You're not seeing the whole chessboard here because they're gonna win out in November. If they win at Washington, Illinois is 10-2. If they win at Washington, so and
big if
here,
I don't think they could. I think Washington could win that game, and I probably would.
Okay, so but then they're 9-3. But then they're 9-3, and that's still a destructive win by Indiana. So it's still good. And here's the other win that Illinois has. Again, when they look at the metrics, when they look at everything that's happening across the board, you know who's pretty good? This Duke team is going to do some stuff on the finishing kick.
Duke is not making the playoff, Pete.
No, they're not making the playoff, but they're going to finish 9-3 or 8-4.
But that's
still a good win.
Texas getting in at 9-3.
It is because there's too much traffic. There's already going to be
take Duke seriously at 9-3 over Texas.
It's not but I'm saying that you're dogging Illinois, but Illinois destroyed Duke. So you're thinking if A, B, C, D, E, and F. So it all kind of adds up that Texas does not have a great win so far. And so if you go forward,
because they haven't won their game. But that's what I'm saying. If they get to 9-3, they will have those great wins. That's the point that I'm trying to make. If Texas gets to 9-3, here are some of the teams that they will have to beat in order to get to 9-3. They're going to have to beat A&M. They're going to have to beat Oklahoma. They're going to have to beat Vandy and Georgia.
Vandy's not – I'm not putting Vandy in that, by the way.
Vandy's better than Illinois. They'd be favored against Illinois on a neutral right now. I'm very convinced of that. Very convinced of that.
Illinois is way better than you're giving it credit for. But
I completely disagree on Illinois. I think Illinois gets deep pants this weekend against Ohio State.
No, but everyone does it. Ohio State's not as an outlier. You can't.
But Ohio State played Texas to one score. That's the point.
Yeah, but first game of the year.
Texas played awful in that game, and Texas still had a chance on the last drive to tie the game.
First games of the year, and Ohio State, to be said, did not.
This is going absolutely nowhere.
No, but here's the whole point is, seriously, you break it all down. There are going to be enough
Texas over Illinois 100 times, million times over. If both those teams have the same record, there is no chance Illinois gets in over Texas.
Yes, but they're both going to be 9-3. So again,
and that's,
you have
that's
to get
the point. They're both 9-3. Texas will get the bid. Illinois will not.
You're not hearing me. You're not no 9-3 team. It doesn't work. There are going to be too many 10-win teams.
I don't know if there's going to be this year. Not in this year.
Because you've got to again. You have to remember. Remember, you've got to take a group of 5 program teams. So there's 11 teams left. You got to take a Big 12 team.
All right,
you got to take an ACC team.
We will finish later.
The whole point is you've got when you're looking at these schedules and who needs it more.
There's a lot more wins at the top of the SEC than there's actually going to be. I think over the next 6 weeks, these teams are going to start picking each other off, and I think you might have 2, maybe 3 10-win teams. I don't think you're going to have 4. For example, I bet the under 3.5 on 10-win teams in the SEC. I don't think there's going to be 4 10-win teams. I think there will be 3 10-win teams in the SEC, and there will be 4 at-large bids given to that conference. I think a 9-win SEC team will be in the college football playoff.
But I would think there'd be it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
The odds were a coin flip that bet went under. So the market says 50-50, 3 or 4 10-win SEC teams. We don't know. 50-50. I think based on what I've seen the first 6 weeks, there's more parity, and it'll be under that number.
We're arguing the exact same thing. I think there's going to be 4 SEC teams in, but there's 5 of them.
5 SEC teams, 4 at-larges.
Do
the math. Do the math. 4 automatic qualifiers. There's 4. Then you get Notre Dame.
5 automatic qualifiers. 5 automatic qualifiers.
Okay, well, I was calling the power conferences. 4 power conference automatics. Group of 5, Notre Dame. There's 6 left. 4.
Yeah. You're gonna have throw an extra ACC team in there.
Maybe, but yes.
There's gonna be a 10-win. They're gonna take a 10-win SEC team.
Goes 10-2, then yes. Then they'll have 3 SECs, 2 Big Tens, and 1 ACC. That's how
you're saying. There's 2. You're saying 2 Big Tens are getting in.
I'm saying the ACC might not get an at-large. They might. I think a
10-2.
I think a 9-3 SEC team is on par with a 10-2 ACC team. I think that's a conversation that the committee will have. I do.
So it's a conversation, but if they're going by precedent, it's never happened before.
So
it's never.
That doesn't mean anything.
It does. Because trust me, I
worked for 5 years. Who cares? It's never happened before.
Because
we're in an unprecedented era of college.
No, but the College Football Playoff Committee, what they do is they default to.
You think they want Texas 9-3?
No. They don't. You're thinking
Georgia Tech.
I literally worked for the college football play. I know how these guys roll. They default. They did it last year with SMU. They default to record.
SMU was a 1-loss team.
Yeah, but they still weren't better than Alabama or Ole Miss.
SMU was a 1-loss team last year. They
with
went
no great wins.
11-1, and their
Alabama,
only loss
was
in the conference championship game.
Yes, but to Clemson, who lost to South Carolina, and South Carolina should have been in.
I know, but they were still 11-1, not 10-2.
But see, you're making
11-1. I agree. 11-1 ACC. That's 2 wins clear. You deserve to be in over a 9-3 SEC team.
Actually, the argument is no. Actually, technically, if they did this, if they went by precedent and did it the right way, Alabama should have been in over SMU last year.
And I thought they should have been.
They should have, but they did. But which is my entire point.
But again, SMU was 11-1, not 10-2.
Doesn't matter.
I think if SMU was 10-2, they wouldn't have gotten in over Bama.
But see, that's my entire point. They went by the schedule. They didn't look at they looked at just the record. And see, they look at
records. They had a better record than what we're saying. They had 11 wins, not 10.
Yes, but they didn't play anybody. But those 11 wins,
they don't get into the playoff.
But those 11 wins were soft wins. They didn't have
wins.
They didn't have a killer.
Tech's wins are pretty much soft, except for the game against Clemson. If Georgia Tech drops 2 games down the stretch, they're undefeated right now. It might not matter. They might go 11-1 too, and make it to the conference championship game, and then lose in the conference championship game, and then none of this is going to matter. But they still have to play Virginia Tech, at Duke, at NC State, Pitt, and then Georgia. They're probably going to lose to Georgia, which means if they run the rest of the table in the ACC, they're in regardless what happens in the conference championship game. But if they drop one of these games, let's say at Duke, your favorite Duke team, in a couple weeks, then all of a sudden they're 10-2. I think 9-3 Texas gets in over 10-2 Georgia Tech. I just do.
That you could think it, you can't make it happen.
I have no idea how it's going to play out.
Yeah, but you're going against.
The dynamics are different this year, to where I think it's possible, more possible than it's ever been. I don't care that it's unprecedented.
They're supposed, and you know what?
3 years of this.
To your point, it's supposed to be. We've actually had 13 years of this.
But only like 2 years. No, we've only had 1 year at the 12-team field, right?
No, but in the history of the college football playoff rankings, no 9-3 team would have gotten in ahead of a 10-2 team. So like,
I know, but that's different. But we didn't have the 12-team format back then. We don't know what those conversations would have been like. It wasn't a computer; it was people picking it. All right, let's move on.
And it still is.
We're going in circles with this. I apologize to the audience if you don't like our college football playoff angry man yell at clouds debate. It's been a lot of fun for me. I love getting my engines revved. Let's get to Georgia at Auburn. I think this is a rock fight game. This feels like a game where Georgia's defense is going to clamp down on Jackson Arnold. And I think Auburn's front is really good. And I think this is going to be a really low-scoring game, total 46.5. My first half under bet, I think, is my favorite play for this.
Auburn pushes that rock up to the top of the mountain and falls back down on them again. They're just good enough to make it close and keep it tight. And I wouldn't be 1,000% shocked if they pulled this off. I just don't think they have quite. It's kind of like the Colorado thing, where there are these teams that are going to be good and they're going to be competitive, and you're going to be like, oh, they're right in it, and then they just don't quite have that final push. And Auburn's going to lose this. They're going to lose. We're going to get back to let's go next to Missouri, Alabama on this. I think they lose this, but they got to win this because they have this and then Missouri at home. This is where Auburn's got to make that pivot. And if you win these next 2 home games, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mercer, they can go on a run here if they somehow pull this off. I don't think it happens. I think Georgia wins in a very underwhelming performance. Yeah,
I think Georgia and Bama are the 2 best teams in this conference right now in terms of pedigree and coaching. I think Georgia's just a lot younger, and so they're going to show more mistakes and flaws, but I think they're going to improve as the season goes on. I get the vibe that Georgia's going to win this game too, but I think it's going to be very low scoring. I think Auburn's defense really going to compete. The last game in the SEC I want to get to, this is, I guess, maybe the game of the week, Bama at Mizzou. This feels like Mizzou is a very fugazi 5-0. I don't know how good Purpula is. I think Bama comes in there and shreds them. I honestly do.
You want to talk about weird schedules? They are now. This is 1, 2, 3. They have not had a road game yet.
Bama or Missouri?
Missouri. This is their 6th straight. They're
going to be on the road
game.
The entire second half of the year.
Yeah, well, they do. They get it's not too bad. They get 2 road games in a row at Auburn, at Vanderbilt, which again, I don't buy Vanderbilt at all. And then they're back home for Texas A&M and Mississippi State. So they get 8 of their first 10 games in Columbia Mo.
Very favorable home schedule. They don't even leave their time zone, I think, until that game.
And then they close out at Oklahoma and at Arkansas.
Yeah, they only leave their time zone once the whole year. I think Arkansas Central Time, Auburn might be Eastern Time. Yeah. So they only leave Nashville, I know, is Central. They only leave their time zone once the whole year.
Nashville Central, I guess that makes sense. Yeah,
Nashville is Central Time. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, again, not to go back to this, but to go in if you're in a power conference and you get 10 wins, if Mizzou can somehow pull this off, they'll lose 2 games.
They're going to lose to A&M. They're probably going to lose at Oklahoma with Mateer back. I could even see them losing at Auburn, frankly. I think the question
I'm not buying either.
How good – me neither, but that's a tough place to play. And like your point, They haven't been on the road yet, and I don't know how good your football team is until you've been on the road, especially in the SEC. You go between, what is the Jordan Hare right at Auburn? Like you take a quarterback in Pabula who's been coddled all year in a very, easy environment, and you put him at Auburn. I think that's tough. Same thing for Bama this week. It'll be an easy environment, but I think the Kane Womack defense, they play this weird, funky zone where they're going to blitz a lot off the edge, and they're going to try to, create these weird windows with their zone scheme. But really, the matchup edge I saw on film was Missouri secondary is absolute buns. And if the front seven's really good, but if they can create some time in the pocket for Simpson to look down the field with these elite receivers, I think it could be a real – we saw Lenore Sellers banged up, absolutely picking apart this Missouri defense. Now, they committed a ton of penalties in that game, and they shot themselves in the foot all day. I don't think Bama will do that. My vibe is if you give Simpson time to throw, this is his Heisman game where he just shreds you.
Oh, he shreds them. And, look, I actually – this Missouri team's fine, but they did get stress tested against Kansas in that crazy back-and-forth game. They got hit for 300 yards by Sellers. I do think that the vibes and the energy, blah, 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 but they don't run. Alabama doesn't run. So
they're getting better. I saw some good stuff on film last week. They ran it well. Better. Missouri runs this weird 4-2-5, so they don't have a lot of linebacking help. I'm actually curious to see how they play it, because I think what they'll have to figure out is, do we want to take away the run? And if we do, we got one-on-ones on the outside with Horton and Bernard and Williams. That's a problem. But if we don't take away the run, I think Bama might actually have some running lanes in this game.
Yeah, they might. And I think I'm picking Alabama.
You can't. Especially a field goal. Come on. Field goal? Come on.
Although kind of like the same thing, like weird things happen in Champaign. Every once in a while, this Mizzou program
they beat him a couple years ago. Remember, it was a walk-off
They beat a great
goal.
Oklahoma team a few years back. That was under Pinkel. I guess, nobody cares what happened 10 minutes ago, much less 5 years ago, and it's crazy to project like that. I wouldn't be shocked if Alabama kind of face plants a little bit here, but I'm still picking. I think Alabama was able to figure out they righted the ship, and this passing game, Simpson's the guy. And
I think he's the best quarterback in the country right now from the neck up.
There's a lot of good quarterbacks out there right now.
Neck up. I'm not talking about arm talent. I'm not talking about moxie. Like Mateer's like the grittiest. Maybe the other guys have better arm talent, but I think in terms of your ability to get into and out of things and read windows, I think Simpson's right now.
I think he's a great player in this system.
He's shredding windows right now.
Get back there and fire. CJ Carr is looking pretty strong for Notre Dame at the moment too.
I'm not necessarily.
You're not buying yet. You're still heartbroken over those two losses. No, there's a lot of Simpson's been great, so I do think they win, but I do think they're gonna have to fight a little bit to get there.
Yeah, I wouldn't lay a touchdown. I think 3 is a fair number for Bama. I think my number has a 3.5, not a huge difference, but it's off the key. I think the edge is run it a little bit, get Simpson comfortable, and then eventually rip downfield. Because I think I did a film study on it this morning. Please go check out the film study. I worked very hard on it. Toriano Pride, Dre Norwood, Stephen Hall. These are all like really experienced corners for Missouri. And the very young, inexperienced South Carolina receivers with a banged-up Lenore Sellers on the road where running past them, around them, all over the place. And South Carolina left a ton of points on the board because of penalties and just mistakes. I don't think Bama will do that because Simpson, again, from the neck up, I think is one of the best, if not the best in the country. If they can protect him, this feels like 42-21 type of game for Bama.
Wow.
It really does. It really does. We haven't seen the peak Bama offense yet. I think it's in there because of the talent and the experience. And the play calling from Grubb and DeBoer.
They needed a minor miracle to cover against Vandy, who I know everyone's in love with.
I think Vandy's tough. I think Vandy's tough. I do. They play hard.
It's just ingrained in my head. I can't get there.
I think Vandy's tough. I think you're not. I think you're too tough on Vandy. Vandy's going to be a 8-9 win team in the SEC. That's impressive.
LSU, Missouri at Texas. They're not winning the game.
They're going 8-4 and 9-3. I think 8-4 more likely, but they got a shot to go 9-3.
They ain't beating LSU. Missouri's 50-50. They ain't winning at Texas. Auburn, yeah, maybe Kentucky, and they ain't winning at Tennessee. So
I think the SEC
I love Diego
is a
Manziel
lot
too, but no.
Than people think. I don't think there is a big gap between the top tier and the middle tier. Now, the Kentuckys, the Mississippi States, I think those teams are clearly in the bottom tier of talent and depth. But even Kentucky covered against Georgia the other day. So I think there is a chance that the SEC, because of the portal and because of the way that the college football playoff is kind of evolving, I think it's compressing just a little bit to where Vandy at 7, 8, 9 wins, not a massive gap between them and Alabama, Georgia at 10 wins. I think
now make that other leap and remember the Big Ten lower ranked team, like the
Big Ten's
whatever.
a disaster. The Big Ten outside of Oregon and Ohio State is an abject and utter disaster.
I would say the opposite, because remember, Big Ten, Purdue's making more money than Alabama through the TV deals. There's more NIL money in the Big Ten. I think the higher end, Ohio State and Oregon. I think the higher end Big Ten. I think the SEC
Purdue
is
doesn't
not
have
as
as
good.
much backing in the program. I think they're making more from the Big Ten deal, but they don't have as many donors. They don't have as many.
Remember,
boosters. It's different
and this
in the
this
SEC.
kind of happened last year. And I don't want to go back to this, but remember, the SEC was out of conference last year. So when it looks great. Oh, Texas beat LSU.
Yeah, that's
or
what I'm saying.
LSU
I don't think
beat
there's as
Oklahoma.
many elite teams at the top of this conference as you think. I think a lot of them are very in the middle.
I think overall this conference is just sort of eh. I don't think Georgia. I don't think is a killer. Georgia's not that great.
They're really young and they're so talented. They're just really young. They haven't evolved yet.
Where?
At every single level, they're really good on the outside. I think Stockton's a gamer. I think their defensive line, especially.
Oh yeah.
Front seven is absolutely elite, but they're all freshmen and sophomores. They haven't played.
And they all want to be in the NFL. Yeah, but they haven't shown it yet. And
that's because it's only 6 weeks in. I think you got to give some of these teams time. I think the most experienced team in the conference is actually Vandy. They brought everyone back, and they've got a 10th-year quarterback. And I think Clark Lee's a really good play caller, and I also think the offensive coordinator does a really good job, Tim Beck, getting them into and out of things. I think they're the most connected to their talent in terms of we are really good at getting the most out of what we have. I think a team like Georgia has all the riches in the world. They just haven't fully tapped into it yet. It's like a raw, untapped oil reserve, whereas Vandy's had the operation going for many years, and they're just kind of continuous. I think the SEC is it's the best conference in America by far. It's not even close. It's not even.
Yeah, it is because the Big Ten's better. I'm gonna say
you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. Big Ten has one really good elite team, one good team.
Oregon's better than you think.
I think Oregon's good, but I think Oregon against
you're
SEC
way
teams
overthinking this. You're too heartbroken.
But who are the other two teams? But who are that's what I'm saying. The SEC has 5, 6, 7 teams. Big Ten has 2.
Yeah, but that's all you need to play for the national championship, along with Miami.
You're saying
and
it's better.
Notre Dame.
How can you say the Big Ten is better when they have 2 teams? SC has 5.
But those 5 teams are all kind of Alabama already lost to Florida State.
That loss is going to look back as one of the biggest outliers of the year. If you're looking at Alabama right now and you think they're worse than Florida State, I think you're not watching the games. They're not. That was a tough, weird, fluky result where Florida State had a rain delay. They had a whole 6 months to prepare for that defense, and Bama didn't give you their best, and they still had a chance to win on the last drive. Since then, we've seen Bama look significantly better.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. Now's where it gets the incestuous part of this, where what has the SEC shown you other than beating other SEC teams? Like, beating Wisconsin's no big deal.
No, it's not.
Georgia doesn't really have a great win outside of the SEC. Tennessee's big win is Syracuse. I mean, we all get thinking, ooh, SEC, SEC. A
lot of other teams, though. We haven't seen it. The one game we saw was Ohio State, Texas. Texas clearly was not ready. They don't look like the class of the SEC this year. And that was still a tight game against the Big Ten's best team. Tight game where Arch Manning threw a pick on the last drive inside the 20-yard line. Yeah. And that is now a Texas team that has lost twice and is not the best in the SEC.
And Florida, they lost to a Florida team that lost to South Florida.
I think if Ohio State goes to Alabama in Week 1 or Georgia in Week 1, I think the SEC wins that game. I do.
They didn't turn it loose. And Ryan Day said as much. They didn't turn Sayin loose. Ohio State's at another level. I think Oregon is better than you think. I still think Penn State's better than you think. I know you hate them. I know you're hating on them right now.
It's not hating on them. They're not a good football team. They're disconnected on defense. They're not generating pressure. Their offense is a mess. They're gimmicky. The receivers are not hustling. They're not running routes. They look like a very poorly coached team.
Poor caddying is what you're saying. They're lollygagging.
Yeah, they're poorly coached. I think the poorly coached teams don't win. Now, here's one team that I'm unsure about. I think Indiana is very, very highly coached. I think if you gave Indiana and Curt Cignetti Penn State's roster, I think they're a top 5 team, and they're a national championship contender.
It's my call, and that
but Indiana doesn't have a top 5 roster. They have a
someone's going to break the bank for Cignetti.
I would if I was Penn State. Can we trade Curt Cignetti for James Franklin?
I'm saying Wisconsin. I mean, Wisconsin's got more money than they've got the money. My 2 guys out there that someone's going to break the bank. Lane Kiffin and Cignetti are the 2.
I don't think Lane's leaving Oxford anytime soon. I think Lane loves the culture in Oxford. From what I heard, the Christianity, the SEC vibes, maybe Bama, but I think DeBoer is going to be good at Bama. Well, Lane turned his life around.
Lane Kiffin.
He's sobered up, and that's been a big part of his life,
his
lifestyle over the last few years. He's been open about that, and I appreciate him being open about that because it's helped me learn a lot about him. I don't think he's leaving Oxford anytime soon. I don't.
I think he's going to go the next big. He's the next Alabama coach if something bad happens to DeBoer.
But I don't think something bad's going to happen to DeBoer. I think DeBoer's refound his stride. I think Bama's winning the national championship this year.
He's the next Penn State coach. Alabama,
DeBoer?
I will say.
Oh, yeah. I don't know way.
No.
You think Frank? I'll be honest. Different. I did a rant about it this week. I don't think Franklin's going anywhere. Nowhere.
I don't think he's going anywhere either.
He's got a $52 million buyout. Where's he going?
He's underappreciated. I still think so, but it's a bad day.
They need
you can't
to
ever
rebound
lose.
strong this week. They need to compete against Ohio State. I am not against a team in the middle of the season showing you their worst and then playing better, but we are in week 7 and they don't have a Power 4 win. We need to see it. We can talk about potential and their roster on paper is great. Show me in a game how great.
And to your point, and they don't have a Power 4 win, and we're kind of waiting to be like,
Texas,
okay, now,
by the way,
how about how about Villanova? Like it's like, okay, Villanova. This is when Penn State's going to open it up.
4th down miracle to cover. I was on the wrong side of that.
It's like, okay, this is when they're going to open up against FIU, which they kind of did. But
it hasn't happened because their receivers are not running the routes properly, and they're not running hard. They're lollygagging all over the place, and that's coaching. And scheme. I think they have a really gimmicky scheme. You know what I would go back to if I was Koldonicky? Day 1 install. Power, counter, zone, play action off of it. I would forget about this read option crap. Forget about these gimmicky concepts they're trying to do. Get back to the basics. Your roster.
I think on the Rose Bowl turf after that game, you have them running wind sprints. Now you start with that. You go old. Go
All right,
go
this
miracle.
This has been a fun show. We've gone a lot longer than we normally do, but I think this conversation has been very, very energized, and that's hopefully you've enjoyed it. I'll give you a chance here, Pete. Final thought, best bet of the week. What's your favorite bet of the week?
I am going to. You're gonna hate me for this. I'm going to go Penn State. I don't
hate you. I think you got to bet them this week. You're getting a discount.
Only because they've got to, right? Because I think the world is assuming, and they've got to come out. I mean, Northwestern's got one of those teams that just sort of hangs around and keeps games low.
I think they win by 50 this week.
Penn State put up 45 on the board. It's just you have to. If you're Penn State, you can't. This isn't one of those games where it's a workmanlike business like 30-19 win. Like no, you got to put up
45-10. That's what I want to see. All right, I think Bama's my favorite side of the week. I really like that under in the Georgia-Auburn game. I think the Auburn defense is a lot better than people think up front, and I don't like Auburn's offense. It is very gimmicky, RPO. I think Kirby Smart's going to take away Cam Coleman. They're going to bracket coverage Cam Coleman. They're going to make Jackson Arnold pull the ball and do it with his legs on this RPO scheme, and I just don't think there's going to be a lot of room to operate, and they run at a really slow pace. So Auburn, Georgia under, first half under. I got 23.5. The full game under, I think, is like in the 46 range. Either of those bets is fine. And then Bama -3. I think that's my favorite side of the week. All right, we'll see you next week. That's Pete. I'm Jared. We'll see you then.